It was always the same for him. It was his Les Paul
Yeah.
through a 100-watt Marshall and through a Crybaby wah-wah pedal. And we started off at one point and he'd slowly pull it down.
Yeah.
That's the sound. And he'd just take his foot off and that was it. I know nothing about Atmos, so I start trying to do it at home. And luckily, it all fell apart. They decided not to do the Atmos mixes, which, having now started them for real, I'm really relieved that I didn't get too far into trying to deal with Atmos at home. So the whole project lay dormant for some time until a couple of weeks ago. I suddenly get a phone call. They want to go ahead with Atmos and they've got to have it done really quickly. So I get on the phone to one at Mike Banks and say, okay, who do you know that's good at doing Atmos mixes? And he hummed and hawed a bit, as he tends to do from time to time, and came up with a couple of names. I finished up with Emre here. Well, it's a perfect match. I think. God knows what he's going to say. But we started actually mixing if we take the day I came down and we started to prep, it's been, what, 6 days? Yeah. 6 days. And we're actually reaching the end. Yeah. And I'll let you take over for a bit.
Yeah. It's a whirlwind. Unexpected project, yeah. And it's been sort of seamless, hasn't it?
So far, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I insisted on was I didn't want to do the typical stereo mix with just the instruments and vocals just in different places. I wanted it to be very different from the original because Atmos is a whole new way of listening to music, and I wanted the mixing to show the new way of listening, the new environment. And so we are not only doing an Atmos mix, we're doing a completely new stereo mix that matches up with the Atmos. So that if I'm not mistaken, that's a new way of working for you.
Yeah, it's very unusual to derive the stereo mix from the Atmos, and it works really, really well. So we're actually pushing that a bit and seeing how far we can take the Atmos and then folding it into stereo and going, well, that's still the same mix. So yeah, it's a really good sign so far in how that process works. And also it's very unusual to mix from multi-track. It's unusual enough to mix from multi-track straight to Atmos, and then we're going to go through a mastering process which never normally happens really on Atmos too. So this is quite interesting. It's a more traditional way of mixing a record, but not for Atmos for sure.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, I come from a traditional age. Yeah. I come from 78s and on a wind-up gramophone. So yeah, very traditional.
Yeah. Does anything really surprise either of you? Has anything been a pleasant surprise or a really unpleasant surprise? Not about each other, because we know that. But has something come up at all that there's been standout moments so far?
I mean, I was worried with a very sort of effectively quite dry record with this hang together in Atmos at all, and it's just I mean, I don't want to blow too lyrical about it, but everything hangs together wherever you put it. There's no additional compression going on. It's just glued, and the way the rooms have been worked, it means there's some sense to where things are going and why, and they're meshing together in a way which I look for in Atmos mixing quite often, but I didn't expect to find or it to work so readily like this. So yeah, and it being a new vision, it's great to
freeze it up for that to happen. I think my biggest surprise was headphones. The first time played through headphones, I just immediately took them off, thinking the speakers were still on, and found that they weren't. It was around me. I'd never experienced that before. So that was my surprise.
That was a huge deal for me, the headphones, because it's very hard to get them to sit the same way the mix does, but we're doing that with the way it's working, and I think it's a lot of mono going on, which is counterintuitively brilliant for Atmos. You can get some incredible. We can really put things in spaces really accurately, and it's great for a multi-track this because
yeah, and one of the other things is this is from a 16-track recording.
Yeah.
So there's not the millions of mics on the bass drum or all of that so often, from what I hear, so often happens these days. So it had to be a lot of mono because we only had a couple of tracks really. But no, I did go into Abbey Road number 2 and do some recording through just playing back in the studio with mics, and we actually finished up using what is it called?
It's an Octo Mic, an ambisonic second order. It's really impressive when we fold that into Atmos. I've not heard something work that well actually.
Okay.
Really, they've been life-saving and opened up a whole.
Oh, I don't know about life-saving. They've helped.
I think they've opened up a kind of palette to the room.
Yes, I'll accept that.
Which if we didn't have that, we would start from a blank canvas on the rooms, and there hasn't been. There's been a kind of sort of taste set about the space straight away.
It's kind of giving you a bit of a helping direction of how the Atmos is going to hang together.
It's quite a big part of, because the way that mic works is so coherent. When we can just use more of the left or right side of it, and suddenly we've got a space here, and the rest of the room's filled out. But it sounds like it's just the instrument. It doesn't. I don't really hear the room so much. So that's been that. So it's not like a huge effective plate, or it's not a different verb. It's like a sound, and I guess it's Abbey Road 2 kind of sound going on, and it's defining a lot of things.
Yeah,
because what's been a really good surprise for me is how Ken's heard Atmos as the first time you're mixing an Atmos.
Yeah.
Right? And our tastes have aligned very much. Like it's not gimmicky, but he's not shying away from it being immersive at all. But there's not it's not going mad.
We've yet to have the acoustic guitar spinning around the room, which we've spoken about, but we haven't done it quite yet.
But it's a really, there's an intent behind the positioning, and that's great, because that's how I enjoy mixing Atmos like that. Or try to.
Yeah, I was listening a minute ago. There was some lovely vocal effects going on. I'm sat at the back of the room, and you mentioned, Ken, about how these are going to work in stereo. Are they too much? And it's just, whether it's fate or whatever, it's just working for you, isn't it? Because it's like they aren't overpowering; they're really part of it. And I think there's something about the lesser number of tracks to start with gives you more opportunity to do everything, doesn't it? It's the age-old arranging it properly.
Yeah. Strange, that is amazing, isn't it? Maybe we'll come back to that one day.
For me, if I'm jumping in ahead, this is possibly, add to my current experience, the only room I would go in other than mine, I would say, and feel like I can work in here, just because of the way they've set it up. The speakers are all the same. There's no strange, massive front loading of the rig, and I'm a bit fussy about that, right or wrong. But yeah, I like this room. Yeah,
I came into it cold. It's I've never been to RAK before. I know it's been around a long time. I always hear about it, but it's my first experience of it, and yeah, very impressed. This particular room is great. The assistants are great. It's just it's just set up very well, and what I'm hearing from the speakers is great, and that's what matters in the end. You can be in a shithole as long as you're hearing what you want to hear or what you need to hear. That's great. But when you get a room that is really nice and you're hearing it, it's good. I think Atmos can be great. Yeah, absolutely. But for me personally, you need to think of it as a totally different experience, not just the stereo with things in different places. I know a lot of it is done when the stereo, it's all matched up to the stereo mix, and that you've got the stereo mix. Why give a totally different environment? But that's me. I'm a dinosaur, and that's the way I think. So.
Well, thank you very much. I think we've pretty much got loads there. Yeah. Thank you.
Now get your asses out of here.